So you are looking to improve your grip with pistol shooting, or you are preparing yourself to start with pistol shooting. Well, then this video is for you, because we will cover all the fundamentals and, more importantly, talk about how to train and test your grip effectively. For this we will go over the importance of gripping, then we will give you a full guide on how to properly grip a pistol. As a third, we will give you some extra options that may help you in your particular case. And as a fourth, we will talk about how to train and test your grip strength. But as always, let's get into our bros advice first. So brother, what do you have?
Well, let's jump right into this topic, because there are some shooting instructors out there that talk about the concept that a relaxed shooter is a fast shooter. And while that may indeed be the case for when you're pinging still, in the context of a tactical scenario, there is no such thing as a relaxed fighter or shooter. So this idea that you have to apply this perfectly straight and relaxed posture is pretty silly in our eyes. Because once you go over to cover usage, the ability to move quickly and react to external factors, you can imagine that this whole concept goes straight through the window.
Alright, as usual, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button to stay notified of our upcoming videos, and also comment down below to help us with the YouTube algorithm. On top, go have a visit at ReconBrothers.com to treat yourself with high quality products like optics, flashlights, holsters, belts and much more. All your support is appreciated. Now, a small disclaimer, my brother and I did teach a couple of people in the past already and saw some significant improvements on their side. However, we never really bothered to become actual certified instructors ourselves, and that doesn't really mean much anyway in our eyes with some of the stuff that we've seen online. That being said, we will do our utmost best to teach you all that we have learned and discovered over the past couple of years that we have been doing this. So let's kick it off with the importance of grip. Grip only becomes important when you want to shoot follow-up shots, given that you handle the other aspects such as trigger control well. It is totally possible to shoot precise results with a bad grip as long as you take your time. Grip is important to control recoil, and controlling recoil means that you have a flatter impulse with every single shot. This results in your gun falling roughly to the same spot after every single shot, which makes it easier for a follow-up shot and thus shoot faster. This is especially important in terms of combat shooting, because for a handgun, the closer you are, the more vital it is to shoot fast hits. And we would even state that gripping is the most important fundamental when it comes to handling a pistol within this context. Many people first look at their trigger finger for adjustments, but as you can imagine, there are far more muscles that work your grip than those few muscles in your trigger finger do. And a good grip can even reduce the errors made by bad trigger control. Now, when someone's grip is bad, you will usually see them doing something that is called milking the gun, which is basically readjusting their support hand grip whilst shooting. In short, you have to grip your gun like a vice. How is that done? Well, by creating an inward, a linear and a downward force with the two paws that you have been given to counteract that recoil. This partly comes from strength and partly from technique. How that ratio between the two is divided is very user dependent, and that is where your personal experience comes into play. Someone that is strong in their hands will generally have to rely less on technique and vice versa. Gripping in itself is also very user and firearm dependent. For example, a user with big hands, small hands, long fingers, short fingers or whatnot is something that he or she can only personally adapt for. As for the firearm dependency, there are factors like, for example, the grip angle, the size of the handgun and where the controls are located, for example. And these are all things that we can decide. And that is why proper pistol selection is so important, and also falls back to one of our previous videos where we talked about why we didn't go for a Glock ourselves. We will put the link in the description below. In overall, grip is highly personal. There are some little nuances to it that only you can figure out over time, but luckily there is a general starting point which we'll dive into right now. Guys, before we continue, it is highly suggested to take some notes during our explanations such that you can use them as a reference when you're on the range next time. For this we will go over 5 points, which are center of gravity, master grip, support grip, pressure and form. The first one is center of gravity. Generally you want to apply something that is similar to a fighting stance, but of course there are many other positions where you can shoot from than just standing. Think about kneeling, going prone, the usage of cover where you are continuously switching between legs. So there is no universal stance that you can apply for everything. The only thing that you have to remember for this is to apply a slightly forward center of gravity so that you don't lose your balance when shooting many rounds quickly after each other and experiencing all that force. The second one is master grip, and this of course has to be good because it dictates all the follow-up steps. This is why a good draw stroke is so important and why a proper holster is vital. In order to get a good master grip, you need to apply a high tang, and this is done by having the meaty part between your trigger finger and your thumb and placing it as high as possible on the grip of your pistol. The important thing about this is to do it as consistently as possible every single time, and over time you will even feel when it is not correct anymore. Next, you don't want to apply something that is called monkey gripping, which is basically the grip you apply when grabbing a wooden stick, for example. Instead, you want to apply leverage, and you do this by pushing your thumb forward and including pinky power. Up to this point, you want to keep your finger off the trigger and your thumb up for now. The third step is your support grip. For this, you want to use your index finger as a guide to marry both your hands together. This is done by wrapping your support hand and pinning your index finger to a good reference point. For us, that is the part between the two knuckles of our index and our middle finger of our strong hand. And when doing so, you want to place the remaining fingers on a comfortable position of your hand. Next up, you want to apply something that is called a nutcracker motion and fill the gap on the grip of your handgun. You don't want to do it the other way around, whereas you first place your palm onto that gap and then wrap your fingers around it, because you will apply way less force. Next thing you want to do is put your thumb as high as possible onto the frame of the handgun, but not that high that it interferes with the slide lock of your pistol. There are some people that do it differently, but we will show that later. Once you have done that, you want to put your strong hand thumb onto your support hand. Just do it in a resting position and don't use force. Next is pressure, and here you want to mainly apply an inward pressure. This has to be 100% equal on both sides too, and not the 60-40% or whatever that everyone probably already heard before. So how much pressure should you apply? Well, there are some signs for it. One example is that if you apply too much pressure, you will start to shake involuntarily, and that is not what you want, so you have to bring it back a bit. On the other hand, when you do apply proper pressure, you should be able to see the texture of your pistol grip into your hand palms, and your fingers should also turn white when gripping, not your face though. Additionally, when applying enough pressure, you should also feel that your hands get exhausted after a while, especially if you're a beginner. And finally, you don't want to underestimate the power of your thumb to keep your pistol in line. The last step is your form, and here we will talk about your arms and wrists. The quickest explanation for this is to make a push movement, whereas your arms hold at about 70% of a full push. When doing so, you want to lock out your wrists. This is where you can see the tendons of your hands tense up on the back of your hand. Now, especially important when doing this is to not extend your arms entirely, because your elbows act as very important shock absorbers. Also do note that you cannot apply enough inward pressure when your arms are fully extended. You are far stronger crushing something up close than far away. Lastly, with the elbows, you don't want to put them up so high that they practically point outwards horizontally. Keep them a bit lower such that you also don't feel stress on your shoulders. So guys, to recap, first and foremost, forward center of gravity. Then we go to the master grip, apply a high tang, draw the weapon, use leverage, thumb forward, pinky power, not the monkey grip, like this. Then we go to the support hand, bring it in with a reference point that is comfortable for you and apply that nutcracker motion. We then go to the support thumb, a high place on the frame, do not interfere with the slide lock. Next is pressure. We bring the gun forward, apply equal inward forces on both hands. Then we go to the form. We apply a push motion, but don't fully extend the arms. Next, lock out your wrists, and finally, don't bring up your elbows too high, and then go for the shot. Now, on top of this, there are some optional things that we have seen people do differently over the past couple of years that may help you in your particular case. We have divided this in two categories, whereas one is physical and the other are tools. Let's begin with the physical first. The first one is where some people rather use their middle finger to have their marriage support rather than their trigger finger because they feel it is more comfortable. The second option, some people also like to use their index finger and wrap it around the trigger guard of their handgun such that it helps them to keep the gun down. Of course, this is not possible when you use a flashlight or a laser. The third thing that we both apply and found to be particularly helpful in our case is what we have named the trigger finger frame reference. And this is actually where you place your trigger finger against the frame of your pistol rather than having it move around freely. We have found that this provides a way more stable trigger control. The idea behind it is that you have less movable joints and thus less error. Normally you would have three parts that can move freely in two different axes, whereas with this you reduce that to only one axis and one part. Lastly, we come back to the support thumb. There are some options with this too, as we have seen people actually putting their thumbs up, down, or even having them float off the gun entirely. The second category are some tools that may help you in reducing that recoil. One is, for example, a support thumb rest, which allows you to push down physically, so that helps as well. Another option is to use a compensator, which helps by redirecting the outward gases upwards, such that you create a downward force. Though, as far as we know, it is not allowed in most European countries. As you can see, it is all highly personal and you have to find out what works and what doesn't work for you. The best way to do this is by starting out with the basic grip that we have explained to you guys, and then try those different options that are available to see what works best or what is most comfortable for you. Then it's only a matter of improving by training and creating consistency. Talking about training, how to train and test this, well, we'll get into that now. One is dry firing, and here it is mainly important to start slow and do it consistently every single time. Either do it from a draw or from a compressed ready position. Another thing you can do is a wrist strength test, whereas you want to grip onto your pistol as you would normally do and then lean in with it onto a table. This in order to understand how much wrist strength it requires to keep your pistol straight. Another very simple thing you can do on a range day is have a buddy draw a line over your thumbs when your hands are positioned correctly, and during the day you can keep track of this to see if your grip is still correct or not. There is also a test you can do to verify the strength of your support hand, whether it is sufficient or not. In order to do this, you grip your pistol as you would normally do, with only one round in the chamber and an empty magazine, and then you remove your strong hand and keep your support hand in the same position. And when doing so, you aim at the target and only shoot one round. And if your gun stays put, then your grip is good enough. Another drill you can do is a simple one-shot drill, whereas you just shoot one round and see the return of your sights. which should give you a good indication of how well your grip is. Another drill you can do are taking 5 or 6 shots on a paper target that is about 3 meters away, and the results should be able to tell you how well your grip is and where you need adjustments. Next up are some exercises to train your grip strength. One of these is with an adjustable grip strength tool, which is a very simple yet effective and awesome tool, especially since it is adjustable. Next up are dumbbell wrist curls. We personally found the neutral ones and the reverse ones to work best. You also don't want to exaggerate with the weight on this. For example, we use 3 kilograms with these. Another very good exercise for your grip strength is what's called a dead hang. Of course, you need a bar for this, and a goal should be to at least hang for about 45 seconds. We do it for 1 minute, for example. The last one are knuckle push-ups or push-ups with the use of dumbbells, because of course in order to do this you have to keep your wrists straight. Alright, before we wrap up, brother, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I actually do, because they say that shooting a pistol is the hardest to master from all the firearm platforms because it requires an understanding of intricate details. The good thing, however, is that once you are very capable with it, it is not so difficult to make the transfer to other firearms. So better make sure to get those reps in on both the range and in the gym.
Exactly. So guys, hope there was some useful stuff in this video for you, and let us know in the comments what your findings are. Make sure to leave a like, and remember, if you're looking for tactical stuff, go have a look at ReconBrothers.com. Thanks for watching, and you'll see us next time again.